Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your Libertarian car guy. Going to do a quick walk around here of this 2018 Mercedes GLC and hopefully get it done before the sky opens up again. It's been raining all morning. Anyway, this is an 18 and it's more or less the same as a 17. No major changes for the new model year. The big disappointment for me is that the Bluetech diesel engine, which Mercedes had talked about being added to the lineup when this car replaced the GLK in 2016, is off the roster for good. And I think that has to do with the fallout from the Volkswagen Audi Porsche diesel fiasco, and not because the Benz diesel is not compliant, but I think Mercedes, just like BMW, which is pulling their diesels, has decided that it's just not worth trying to keep up with whatever the EPA's latest rigmarole is going to be with regard to diesel exhaust emissions. The other thing about the car that's noteworthy is that it, like pretty much all the other vehicles in this class and elsewhere, now comes standard with a turbocharged 2.0 liter 4, the ubiquitous engine, not just in the luxury segment but across the board. The old GLK, of course, came standard with a V6, and what's kind of interesting about it when you dig into the stats is that the old V6 only got slightly worse gas mileage. The difference is about 4 miles per gallon versus the new 2.0 Turbo 4. So, we're paying for this basically. The government continues to ratchet up the mandatory minimum fuel economy numbers, and the manufacturers respond to that by downsizing their engines and adding turbos to compensate. And they only compensate to a limited degree. The power is down versus the V6. The new Turbo 4 puts out 241 horsepower. The old V6 put out more than 300 horsepower. What's interesting, though, is that the torque output of this engine, the 2.0 Turbo 4, and the old V6 is identical. But the gas engine produces its torque output much earlier in the RPM range. Just off idle, I think it's about 1,600 RPMs off the top of my head. And the old V6, because it wasn't turbocharged, made its peak torque somewhere south of 3,000 RPM. Now, you can still get a turbo V6 in this if you buy the AMG version, but of course the AMG version is considerably more expensive. So, again, larger engines are being driven out of the mass market and becoming indulgences for the affluent only. Okay, that said, and those gripes are not directed at Mercedes, to be clear. Mercedes is just doing what it's got to do. Some things that I personally really like about this GLC and that you may find of interest are the following. It is based on the C-Class sedan, but it's more space efficient inside, and not just because it's a crossover SUV and has the higher roof and the cargo hatch in the back. It actually has nearly 3 inches more legroom in the second row. The C is a really nice car, but the back seats are a little bit tight. That's not the case here. See, I'll show it to you. In fact, I will sit in the car for you to show you. Now, I'm 6 feet 3 inches tall, so this should give you a good idea of the roominess of the car. And I have the front seat positioned for me, again, 6 feet 3, long legs, the whole deal. And if you look here, you'll see that my knees are not even close to the seat backs in the front. And something clever Mercedes did, by the way, I don't know if you can see this in this thing here, but they scalloped out the seat backs to carve out even that little bit of extra room. Also, headroom is really good. This roof does not slope back too radically, so the headroom back here again is perfectly adequate for a big geek like me. So if you're under 6 feet 3, you will probably be fine. Another thing that's kind of neat about this vehicle is that they offer it in and I'll put it in air quotes, a coupe version. Has 4 doors, actually has 5 doors. It has the 4 standard size doors, and it's got a hatchback in the back, but it's got the coupe-like styling. Mercedes first came out with that a few years ago in the CLS coupe sedan. BMW has a rival for that too in the X4, which is kind of a slope-roofed version of the X3. But it's nice that you can get those 2 body styles. Now, versus the BMW, I will say this, and this is just my personal opinion here, and opinions may vary, but I personally think, let's see if I can get a wide-angle view of this, that the interior of this car is much, much more attractive. attractive actually isn't even the right word, higher end looking than in the BMW. You get things in this car, or can order things in this car like this actual brushed metal trim, the dashboard, and the controls, and the nice big touchscreen, all of which look appropriate to the price point. And no slam on the BMWs. You know, I'm a fan of them from a variety of other points of view, but I think relative to the cost of the vehicle, this to me feels more price appropriate than the BMWs, at least in their as they come trim. As you move up the food chain, they get progressively nicer. Anyway, I will have a full review up at epautos.com shortly, and also another rant about the electric car push, and one of the reasons why electric cars might be being pushed so aggressively by government rather than the free market. So look for that, should be up later, and thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.